After Xiao Yan completed his intense training in the ancient clan's Sky Curtain and returned to Xingyun Pavilion, many things had already changed. Not only did his strength advance to the peak of the 8-star Dou Zun realm, but he also awakened the bloodline of the duty and officially obtained the Xiao family's crest. With the support of his ancestor Xiao Xuan, his cultivation path was further solidified, and he stood at the top among the Dou Zun. However, even after such progress, Xiao Yan found no trace of his companions. Xiao Yixian and others were gone. The truth quickly came to light. The Jia Ma Empire was under heavy attack by the Lion Nether sect, and Xiao Yixian, together with the Skyfire Venerable, had already rushed ahead to support the region. The crisis was real, and the threat was pressing. Upon receiving this alarming information, Xiao Yan made a swift decision to return to the Jia Ma Empire immediately. He couldn't afford to delay. He had to protect those he cared about and stand against the enemy that dared to invade his homeland. But this journey wasn't one he would take alone. Yao Lao, knowing the gravity of the situation, began preparing in advance. He knew the opponents were strong and that Xiao Yan alone, no matter how powerful, might not be enough. Therefore, he began gathering support. First, he issued invitations across Zhongzhou to multiple Dou Zun experts. But this was not a simple request. Each invitation came with the promise of 3 8th-grade elixirs. These pills were rare treasures that many Dou Zuns could only dream of obtaining. Just this offer alone would have been enough to attract them. But even more persuasive was Yao Lao's identity as a semi-saint. That name alone carried great weight and prestige. His reputation made refusal nearly impossible. In the end, Yao Lao successfully gathered more than 20 top-tier Dou Zun experts, each one personally selected. These weren't just ordinary Dou Zuns. Each was at least at the level of a 3-star Dou Zun or higher. Among them, 3 particularly powerful brothers stood out. All 3 were 8-star Dou Zuns, just slightly below Xiao Yan in strength. Together, these 3 were said to be able to fight evenly against a 9-star Dou Zun. Their combined strength made them a major force in their own right. But Yao Lao wasn't finished. In addition to these 20 invited powerhouses, he also selected 10 guest elders from Xingyun Pavilion to accompany Xiao Yan. These were among the strongest forces within the pavilion, and by dispatching them all at once, Yao Lao had essentially sent out half of Xingyun Pavilion's elite strength. It was a bold move, but one made with absolute confidence. With a semi-saint like Yao Lao staying behind to guard the foundation, even Xingyun Pavilion would not fall into danger. Altogether, over 30 Dou Zun powerhouses gathered behind Xiao Yan, an overwhelming force, the likes of which could dominate an entire region of Zhongzhou. Even Xiao Yan, who had fought through countless battles, was astonished by this arrangement. Such a lineup was enough to crush most factions in Zhongzhou without resistance. Facing a force like the Lion Nether sect, that wouldn't even be a challenge. Even if the Soul Palace stood behind them, they would find it difficult to hold their ground. This immense power was Yao Lao's gift to Xiao Yan. Not material possessions, but real force, tangible protection, strategic advantage, power that could turn the tide of war. This was Yao Lao's expression of trust, love, and determination. He was no longer just a teacher, he was now a full supporter of Xiao Yan's campaign. When everything was ready, Yao Lao opened a space wormhole. But unfortunately, due to the lack of precise coordinates for the Jia Ma Empire, the wormhole could only teleport them to a general area, somewhere in the northwestern part of the continent. Before Xiao Yan departed, Yao Lao handed him a space scroll. This scroll could be used to open a permanent passage, but only once Xiao Yan reached the right location. With this final preparation complete, Xiao Yan and his force stepped into the space wormhole together. Although their entry point landed them in the northwest, which was technically part of the Lion Nether sect's territory, it turned out to be a relatively safe zone. From there, the group began their journey toward the Flame Alliance, using a detailed map Yao Lao had prepared in advance. Along the way, they encountered several enemy scouts, but none strong enough to pose a threat, only some Dao Zong-level warriors. These minor encounters gave Xiao Yan something valuable: information. Through interrogation, Xiao Yan quickly learned about the current situation in the region. What he discovered was more severe than he had imagined. The Flame Alliance was on the brink of collapse. The Lion Nether sect, with assistance from the Soul Palace, had launched an overwhelming offensive. Under this joint assault, the Flame Alliance's territory had already been reduced by nearly 1/3. The situation was critical. The remaining forces of the Flame Alliance had withdrawn to a final line of defense known as the Xuanhuang Fortress. This fortress now held the fate of the entire alliance. If the enemy managed to break through here, the 1,000-mile defense line would fall, and the Flame Alliance would be forced to retreat completely back to the Jia Ma Empire. The Shiming sect, leading the assault, had already stationed their elite forces at the Xuanhuang Fortress. Among these elites were more than 30 Dou Zun-level cultivators, an army of terrifying strength. In contrast, the Flame Alliance had only a handful of Dou Zun experts left, mainly Kai Lin and Xiao Yan. The difference in strength was too great. If war broke out now, the Flame Alliance would have no chance of victory. Now, Xiao Yan understood that he could no longer delay. With his full force behind him, he pushed forward with even greater urgency. His target was clear: reach Xuanhuang Fortress, reinforce the Flame Alliance, and turn the battle around. Every moment counted, and the fate of the entire Northwest continent rested on what would happen next. Xiao Yan's return to the Jia Ma Empire was not just a simple journey. It was a full-scale campaign prepared with unmatched power. With over 30 Dou Zuns at his back, 3 8th-grade elixirs used to rally the strong, and Yao Lao's full support behind the scenes, this was no longer the same Xiao Yan from the past. Every step he takes now carries the weight of an entire alliance. And with the situation at Xuanhuang Fortress becoming more desperate by the hour, the upcoming battle may very well determine the future of the Jia Ma Empire, the Flame Alliance, and the balance of power across the Northwest continent. Will Xiao Yan's arrival be enough to stop the Lion Nether sect in the Soul Palace? Or is this just the beginning of an even larger war? If you enjoyed this deep dive into Battle Through the Heavens, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you won't miss the next chapter in Xiao Yan's epic journey. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.